Hello, I'm Ollie and this is Criminolly, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today, crime, I've got a review for you of the fantastic thriller Strangers on a Train by Patricia Highsmith. So this is one of those books that's perhaps best known for the film version of it, which was directed by Alfred Hitchcock. And I remember as a kid knowing about the concept of Strangers on a Train before I'd seen the film or indeed even knew there was a book. I remember my mum telling me about it, and it's such a fantastic concept that it's no surprise that Hitchcock wanted to film it, and it's no surprise that the book was such a success when it came out and is still in print today. So the concept, if you don't know, I'm sure you do, but if you don't know it, the concept is this: two guys meet on a train. Both of them have people in their lives they would rather be without. For one of them, it's his estranged wife, who he wants to get a divorce from but is struggling to. And for the other one, it's his father, who is kind of overbearing and too controlling. So the two guys meet on a train and they have a conversation and they effectively agree to swap murders on the basis that if the guy with the overbearing father kills the estranged wife of the other one, no one will suspect him because there's no connection between the two of them. They are strangers who've just met. So just a fantastic concept. It's one of those concepts that's immediately appealing and immediately just gets your brain ticking over and thinking, wow, yeah, that's really interesting. And I remember as a kid that sensation of thinking that is a really interesting idea. As a child, I don't know if this is normal, maybe it's just me, but I was interested in, kind of the macabre and the darker side of things. And this idea of people swapping murders I found completely fascinating. And the book is excellent. And the book goes in it takes that concept but develops it in a really interesting and effective way. So it's Patricia Highsmith's first novel, and it is it's just fantastically enjoyable. And what makes it, I think, so great is the two central characters. So on the one hand, you've got Bruno, who's the guy with the overbearing father, who is just a fantastic character and similar in many ways to Highsmith's most famous character, Ripley, from the Ripley series, which started with The Talented Mr. Ripley. The other character, who's kind of the more central and relatable character, is much more kind of boring, really. He's straight-laced, he's kind of a good guy, and he kind of gets swept up in all of this without really meaning to. So, he has this conversation with Bruno at the start of the book, but he personally doesn't really take it that seriously until his ex-wife turns up dead. And then Bruno starts insisting that he, comes through on his side of the deal and kills Bruno's father. But what makes it brilliant, as I say, is the character work. So Bruno is just a fantastic creation in that he's recognisably psychopathic, but you as a reader get swept up in all his ideas and obsessions in the same way that the other character does at the start of the book in their initial conversation. And looking at the book with a modern eye, there are clearly things about Bruno's character which are quite interestingly three-dimensional. So for a start, he's clearly gay, and he's obsessed, becomes obsessed with the other man, and fascinated by him, and wants to have like interactions with him, not necessarily sexual interactions, but just to be engaged with him, to have conversations with him, all that kind of thing. He really does, as the book progresses, become more and more obsessed with the other character. And that's interesting because Highsmith herself was gay. And her second novel, The Price of Salt, which I've also just read, is about a lesbian relationship. And I do wonder if she, was kind of working through some of her own thinkings and feelings and stuff like that through the character of Bruno. But the fact that his obsessions take such a dark turn, I think is reflective of the fact that in the time that the book was written in the 50s in America, homosexuality was, was forbidden. It was illegal. It was against the law, and it would have, anybody who was gay would have had to be gay in complete secret. So that in itself, I think, is interesting. But what Highsmith then does as a thriller writer rather than a reflective writer is wrap all of that up in a plot which just moves really quickly, that has a number of fantastic twists and turns, and is just enormously enjoyable and gripping. So from that initial concept, which grips you as a reader and immediately interests you, she then goes on to develop the story and this kind of cat and mouse relationship between Bruno and the other guy, as Bruno becomes increasingly obsessed and increasingly invades the other character's life. And there's a real kind of psychological richness to all of it. It all feels very three-dimensional and very convincing. It works as a book because you believe that a character like Bruno could exist and would do the things that he does, and you as the reader you associate with the other character and his kind of terror and bewilderment and he's frantically trying to put things right and to get Bruno out of his life, makes for a really, really compelling read, because you can put yourself in that same situation of having had a random conversation with someone you met for 5 minutes, and then that person invading your life and doing appalling things that they think they are doing to help you. It's almost it is really, I suppose, a stalker story, albeit I guess that's a term that wasn't really used back when the book was written. But Bruno does stalk this other character and his new fiancée as the book progresses, and becomes increasingly threatening and menacing. So yeah, a really, really enjoyable psychological thriller. It's one I've read before by Highsmith. I've read a couple of other things by her. As I've said, I'm reading all of her books this year, and really looking forward to it, because this was so good, and the Price of Salt was also excellent. In fact, I think that was even better than Stranger on a Train for me. But Stranger on the Train is just a classic thriller, and definitely worth reading. Okay, time for a random book from the shelves. I thought I'd go with another Hitchcock one. So this is Psycho by Robert Bloch, which came out around the same time as the movie. So the book came out just before the movie. Hitchcock reportedly would send people out to buy up all the copies of it in towns where the film was showing, so that people didn't discover what the twist was through reading the book, which I think is an interesting marketing technique. But another absolutely fantastic book. I really like Psycho the book, and I think it's an interesting read, even if you've seen the film, because it adds some additional stuff. So definitely worth checking out. So, hope you found that interesting. Let me know if you've read Strangers on a Train and what you thought of it. Let me know if you've read other Patricia Highsmith books. Let me know which ones I should be particularly looking forward to in my read-through of her works this year. And as always, thank you very much for watching. Hope you're safe and well out there. Hope you're reading good stuff, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.